Welcome to the BurbNBougie News Recap. We have very varied stories today. We're talking Moms for Liberty, the new Speaker of the House, and a true crime tale as unfolded on Twitter and then brought to life from a news article. Go ahead, jump in the comments, let me know which resonated with you the most. This is an interesting story. Moms for Liberty unexpectedly finds itself at the center of a heated suburban Indiana mayoral race. Let's get into this. This is so important, and this is another reason why understanding politics is bigger than the presidency. It is understanding that local and state politics, state level politics, is so important. An Indiana Moms for Liberty chapter has followed the conservative group's national playbook, challenging diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in school districts as part of its parental rights mission. But the chapter's aims and use of a group quote from Adolf Smittler in its inaugural newsletter unexpectedly spilled over this fall into a mayor's race previously defined by local development. The polarizing nature of Moms for Liberty, which has gained name recognition for its push to pack school boards with endorsements, has spurred some left-leaning candidates to capitalize on the opposition to the group and stir voters against the conservative opponents. In Carmel, Indiana, the Democratic candidate for mayor has repeatedly used the group when attacking his opponent, even though the mayor's office has no administrative powers over the school districts, and the local chapter has publicly remained silent on the race outside of its traditional battleground. The Democratic candidate and Carmel City Councilman Miles Nelson, asked his opponent on stage earlier this month to denounce the local Moms for Liberty chapter. Fellow city councilwoman and Republican Sue Finkham did not respond and later accused Nelson of trying to use national politics to inflame the race to lead the city of nearly 102,000 people located about 15 miles north of downtown Indianapolis. The Hamilton County chapter of Moms for Liberty told the AP it can only endorse candidates for school boards, but also accused Nelson of campaigning on silencing parents. Florida-based nonprofit Moms for Liberty has challenged curriculum and books featuring instruction on systemic racism and LGBTQ topics in K-12 education. The Southern Poverty Law Center, which tracks hate and extremism around the U.S., classifies Moms for Liberty as an anti-government extremist group earlier this year. Since its inception in 2021, amid opposition to schools' COVID mandates, the organization has swiftly gained sway within Republican politics. 5 GOP candidates spoke at Moms for Liberty annual summit in Philadelphia this summer. Wealthy suburban Hamilton County fits the model of areas where Moms for Liberty has sought to influence school policies, according to the report by Brookings Institute. The city of Carmel itself went for Joe Biden in 2020 after backing Trump in 2016. Trump held on to a broader county in 2020. So I just want to use this screenshot as a reminder that this is the reason why it is imperative to understand what is going on at local levels, at state levels. This is so important. People have got to erase the notion that voting for president is the most important thing. The local chapter is relatively new, but its June newsletter attracted wide condemnation after the Smittler quote on its front cover. The chapter apologized shortly after and edited the newsletter. Nelson, who described himself as a man of devout Jewish faith, spoke out against the group on the social media at the time. As a candidate for mayor, he called on Finkham to do the same. During the October 2nd debate, Nelson directly asked Finkham to denounce Moms for Liberty once and for all. Now, he is doing this, and it's important because if these people at city and state level don't denounce them, they are implicitly okay with what they're doing, because these people are not just impacting schools. They are impacting the wider range of politics. Finkham did not reply. Her silence was met by cries from the crowd. Finkham later said on social media that she was followed, filmed, and called a Nazi and a racist after the debate. She insisted she would not bend to my opponent's theatrics. Corey Wood, senior advisor for Finkham's campaign, said in a written statement she has denounced the use of the quote multiple times. Finkham condemned its use in June while speaking at the Carmel Pride event, according to reporting by the Indianapolis Star. Her opponent is unqualified to lead our city and is repeatedly asking about Moms for Liberty to take voters' focus off his incompetence. Sue respects our residents' ability to elect a school board and to lead school operations and curriculum. Paige Miller, chair for Moms for Liberty, Hamilton County chapter, in a written statement said that Nelson has made opposing the group a platform for his campaign. The oath of office for mayor requires an elected official to promise to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. We expect our elected leaders to uphold this integral part of the office, which guarantees citizens freedom of speech and the right to assemble, as stated in the Constitution. Nelson said his continued opposition of the Moms for Liberty is about supporting teachers in the school district. The mayor's office doesn't oversee schools, but local education is essential to drawing business and new residents to growing Hamilton County. What stuck was this Moms for Liberty thing. Nelson said about the debate, because she was silent and it's a hate group. John Valant, director of the Brown Center of Education Policy at Brookings, said while Moms for Liberty has rallied its base to its cause, the group also has generated staunch opposition. Affiliation with Moms for Liberty can hurt some candidates, as in the Carmel race. It's a clear example of how opposition to Moms for Liberty can galvanize people to vote against conservative candidates. Anyways, this is just basically speaking on how some of these groups use single issue things to rally their base, but also this is what some people can use against them as well. Y'all go ahead, jump in the comments. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, share. Now that we got a new Speaker of the House after 3 weeks of a cluster F from the Republicans, the viewpoint of the Speaker of the House, Johnson, is coming out. So let's get into this a little bit. House Speaker Johnson linked mass cum to feminism, no-fault divorce taped in a taped sermon. Legalized abortion is also part of our culpable primordial slime that's rotting our morals, Johnson told a congregation.
Things like no-fault divorce laws. We invented the sexual revolution. We invented radical feminism. We invented legalized abortion in 1973, where the state, the government, sanctions the killing of the unborn. I mean, we know that we're living in a completely amoral society. And so people say, how can a young person go into their schoolhouse and open fire on their classmates? Because we've taught a whole generation, a couple of generations now of Americans, that there is no right and wrong.
Okay, so that was Mike Johnson, but that sermon was back from 2017. Now, Johnson went on last week to attribute the mass cum in May that claimed 18 lives to a problem of the human heart rather than easy accessibility to American high-powered pew-pews. White House Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates snapped back last Friday. We absolutely reject that offensive accusation that crime is uniquely high in the United States because of American hearts. Violence is now the main reason American children's hearts stop. These pews are creating situations where more children are being taken out. And so maybe these pro-life people should be focusing on that as well, but they don't. Johnson expounded on his theory of mass cum in a lengthy sermon in 2017 at the Christian Center of Shreveport, where he lamented the attacks erupting from the Christian nation's rotting morals and the shift in American culture. We see the encroaching darkness. Y'all can find his whole sermon on the YouTube. Johnson was a congressman at the time following his election the previous year. He blamed in particular, in his address, the countercultural revolution for America's downfall, Woodstock and drugs and free love and all that. More about the undermining of the foundations of faith and morality. As for no-fault divorce, Johnson is a big proponent of marriage forever. Marriage forever. So no leaving. Johnson and his wife Kelly hit the prominent Christian scene in the late 1990s when they went on national TV as the face of Louisiana's new marriage covenant law, which makes it harder to get a divorce. So that is a little bit about some of his views. So it should come as no shocker that he is a hardliner against reproductive rights. New House Speaker pushed for hard labors for abortion providers after the fall of Roe. The day after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade last June, Mike Johnson of Louisiana celebrated in his home state new penalties for providers. The right to life has now been restored, the Republican crowed on the Twitter on June 25th. Perform one and get imprisoned at hard labor for 1 to 10 years and fined $10,000 to $100,000. Opposition to reproductive care is virtually a job requirement for Republicans these days, but Johnson, the newly minted Speaker of the House, is a committed opponent, even by standards of his fellow conservative colleagues. Skip down to the bottom. And at a time when many Republicans in Congress are trying to quietly ignore abortion, wary of the backlash from their constituents over proliferating bans, Johnson has continued to champion an array of anti-choice bans. Since the fall of Roe, Johnson has co-sponsored a national 15-week ban, as well as bans on the most common second trimester abortion method. So he is leaning in to his rhetoric, leaning in hard, despite the fact that so many women, so many people in general are pro-choice in this country. He also co-sponsored bills to strip Planned Parenthood of federal funding, to force providers to tell women that they may be able to reverse their abortions, a claim unproven by science, and to make it a federal crime to transport a minor across state lines for a legal abortion without telling that minor's parents. Johnson backed a bill that would have established that life begins at conception. Why do we need a bill for this? This is the reason why I say we are tiptoeing into a theocracy. And this is the reason why you have got to know the different levels of politics, what is going on, these different people, because the president is literally a figurehead. It is the people in Congress and the judges that really create legislation that impacts society. Okay, so he wants to make it a bill that establishes life begins at conception and redefine fetuses as human beings. So this is who is now the Speaker of the House. Yeah. This is just wild where we are right now. In 2021, Johnson even co-sponsored a bill that would have nationally banned abortion past roughly 6 weeks of pregnancy. The bill would have allowed abortion in the case where the woman's life is in danger due to a physical condition, but not one due to a psychological one. So that's just a little bit more about this man who folks he's the gavel holder. He's the one that's going to be pushing through and setting the agenda. Y'all jump in the comments and let me know what you think. So this tale starts on Chris Evans's Twitter account. And he did such a great job with telling this story. I'm just going to read it to you. This story time is a good one. He says, gather around, y'all, because I got a good true crime story to tell you. And buckle up, because this ish is a doozy. And I guarantee you won't expect the twists and turns this story takes. Let me know in the comments if you are expecting some of these twists. Jennifer and Jamie were a happy couple living in the Dallas area on a beautiful suburban street where all the neighbors knew each other and had a loving, neighborly Christian community, the type of place where you can go next door and ask to borrow a cup of sugar. Okay, so this is Jamie and Jennifer. Jamie worked in IT and was known as a fun, loving, sweet guy who would help anyone. Everyone thought he and Jennifer were such a good match, even though he always said he didn't want to settle down. They were so ostensibly in love, and friends noted how affectionate they were. One morning, Jamie and Jennifer went out for a walk with their dog, and their neighbors heard 9 shots. One of their neighbors went running over to help, but noticed the shooter in all black with his face covered by a blue mask. So he ran back inside and returned with his own pew-pew. But by then, the unaliver had taken off. The shooter had fired 9 rounds into Jamie at point-blank range. He'd attempted to duct tape and subdue Jennifer, but ran off when the neighbors came running. I'm sorry, he was scared off when the neighbors came running. Everyone in the neighborhood runs outside to console Jennifer, who is in shock. Her husband was just unalived in front of her, and they wait for the police as his body lay in the middle of the driveway. The community rallies around Jennifer and her daughter, And Jamie was the breadwinner. Now they have no means of support. They start a GoFundMe, take turns walking Jennifer's dog, and Jennifer starts a group text chain with her neighbors to keep them updated on the case. Jennifer told the police the description of the unaliver, which wasn't very helpful because he was covered from head to toe. But the witness did tell police they saw the man get into a black pickup with a T sticker on the back. The community seemed dumbfounded. It was very clearly a targeted hit rather than a random crime. But everyone loved Jamie, so who would do this? A disgruntled employee? Jamie and Jennifer had a nice house and vehicle, so maybe an attempted robbery. Jennifer kept the neighborhood group chat updated on the police investigation, which she shared was frustratingly going nowhere with no leads. One of the friends in the chat, who was ex-military, said he thought it might be a veteran who's trained to empty the clip. But suddenly, out of nowhere, the police have singled out a person of interest, a man named Darren, who lived thousands of miles away in Tennessee. Darren had the black truck in question, and you could see there was an outline of the T decal that he had since removed. Darren was apprehended in Tennessee with his daughters in the vehicle, extradited and arrested. But the interrogation goes nowhere as he immediately asked for an attorney. But who is Darren, and why would he want to unalive Jamie, a random man in a completely different state? All right, so this is Darren. And now Chris Evans says, well, let's rewind 7 months. Darren was in the Army and just coming out of being honorably discharged after a vehicle he was in got blown up and unalived a dozen soldiers. Darren was one of the 4 that survived. He was struggling with PTSD, vision issues, brain damage, and more. Now a disabled veteran and rethinking his life, he decides to reach out to his high school sweetheart. They went to prom together and had a great relationship, but lost touch when he immediately joined the Army after high school and got stationed in South Korea. He looked her name up on Facebook and sent a long message to his high school sweetheart about how great they were together and how he'd been thinking about her and how his life would have been different if they ended up together. Her name was, you guessed it, Jennifer. So here is a full picture of Jennifer and Darren. Jennifer was so shocked to hear from her old beau and wrote him back a beautiful note about how his message made her feel so great to hear how he's doing. She gives him her email address and phone number, and they continue to be pen pals. The messages back and forth begin to escalate, both emotionally and sexually. They send photos back and forth, long, detailed messages about their fantasies, including BDSM, handcuffs, ball gags, choking, spanking, the works. This conversation goes on for months. Jennifer finally tells Darren that she is in a toxic, abusive relationship and that her husband, Jamie, treats her horribly and even physically abuses her. At a certain point, Jennifer and Darren were literally sending thousands of texts to each other in a 24-hour period. Jennifer confides in a close friend via text that she's having a full-blown emotional affair with her high school boyfriend, but her secret doesn't last long. Jennifer is now a grieving widow, going on the local news months after the unaliving, sobbing and asking for help. Her GoFundMe nets $60,000, and Jamie had $400,000 in retirement benefits. She also files a claim for his $600,000 in life insurance, his $600,000 life insurance policy. She sends Darren credit cards and gifts, but she can't collect on the insurance because the murder investigation is active. The police obtained Jennifer's phone, and she has deleted all communication between herself and Darren. There's just one problem. She forgot to delete the text to her friend confessing of the affair. They have Jennifer and Darren dead to the rights. They'd set the whole thing up. Attended to live off Jamie's money and life insurance after he was dead. Lied about the killer trying to tie her hands with duct tape so she would seem like a victim. She's been all over TV with crocodile tears talking about how she shouldn't be a widow at 48, happily accepting all the money everyone's giving her, and in turn sending it to her boyfriend in Nashville, who unalived her husband. She's been showering him with money and gifts, big screen TVs, all kind of mess, giving him access to her Amex and telling him to buy whatever he wants. Another turn. But Jennifer's a victim here too. She was in an abusive relationship and saw no way out. When she got that email from Darren, it gave her an exit from a marriage where she was being abused, SA'd, and passed around to other men. Except everything Jennifer ever said to Darren was a lie. She was never abused, and her husband Jamie never knew about her affair. She pretended to be Jamie in emails to Darren where he confronted him about cheating on his wife. She faked the photos of scratches. She faked the photos of scratches and bruises. Every text or email that Jamie ever sent to Darren about his wife was not real. It was Jennifer pretending to be her husband to create a false narrative that she was a battered wife. Darren had told Jennifer to report her husband to his job. She said that wouldn't work. She said they wouldn't believe her. So she convinced Darren unaliving her husband was the only way for her to escape. There are text messages of Jennifer contacting Darren after the unaliving and telling him to remove the T sticker from the back of his truck because she has a bad feeling. Jennifer was arrested and charged with murder. In the neighborhood group chat, who had suggested the killer may be a veteran, that was Darren. Jennifer had added the actual unaliver to the group chat with her neighbors, and he had the nerve to reply like he was trying to help find the unaliver. Darren, who is now in prison, is currently begging Texas Governor Greg Abbott to help because he was manipulated into unaliving Jamie on false pretenses. So if it was better pretenses, that would have been a better reason. So here's Darren again. And Chris says, oh, since it wasn't clear, Jennifer is sentenced to life, but she still maintains that she was innocent. So this article came out in Fox News. Once I saw the names, I started trying to Google the situation. You guys can look it up. Man found guilty of unaliving Dallas girlfriend's husband. He was sentenced to 62 years. And this, once again, is another picture of Jamie. So this is just another true crime tale. This actually unfolded back in 2020. So this was a long time coming for them to actually get sentenced, and they were sentenced this past summer because this article is dated July 28th. You guys go ahead, jump in the comments, and let me know what you think. Like, comment,